Om Shri Sairam. We begin today's session with three Omkars. Om Shri Sairam. Offering our most humble and reverential pranam at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Respected elders and my dear brothers and sisters, a very warm welcome to this 49th edition of the online Samarpan sessions. Today, we are blessed to have amongst us Brother Venkatesh Prasad. Brother Venkatesh Prasad comes from a family which has been blessed to be in Swami's love and care since late 1960s. His grandfather was a devotee of Sri Shirdi Sai and was instrumental in bringing the entire family to the Sai fold. Since childhood, he was a witness to the omnipresence of Bhagwan through various miracles in the family. He was blessed to have the first darshan of Bhagwan at Vrindavan on 15th August in the year 1978. During this visit, his late father had an opportunity to converse with a Sai student he was studying at that time in Vrindavan and was very impressed with the system and discipline prevailing in the campus and prayed that his son too should become a Sai student. Swami fulfilled the dream of Brother Venkatesh Prasad's father after 9 years by granting him an admission as a Sai student in 1987. Brother Venkatesh Prasad is an alumnus of the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and was a student of MBA between 1987 to 1992. He holds a bachelor's degree in commerce from Vrindavan campus and master's degree in management from the Prashanti Nilayam campus. On the professional front, Brother Venkatesh is currently an independent marketing consultant based at Bengaluru, India. He has got 30 years of varied experience across industries like textiles, machinery, automotive, and the list goes on. His earlier stints included as COO of Credit Access Grameen Limited, Executive Director of Lakshmi Electrical Control Systems Limited, Director and CEO of SLET AG, Singapore. His career took him far corners of the globe, and again, he is a witness of the omnipresence of the Lord and realized the importance of the statement, "My presence shall go before thee." Stepping out as a student from Swami's physical presence in Prashanti Nilayam has only led him to Swami's omnipresence and every day and every moment from there on. I would now request Brother Venkatesh Prasad to share his thoughts with us.
Sairam, offering my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of my mother Sai. Sairam to everyone. At the very outset, thank you very much for this opportunity to go back in my life and recollect the events as they have unfolded over the past 3 decades and more. And it will be my good fortune to be able to share with all of you today how Swami has been an important part of my life and how he continues to guide and lead the way on a day-to-day basis. As it was mentioned, right from my birth, right from my childhood, the Swami has been part of our family. It has been Swami whom I have been worshipping as a god. Even though as a typical Indian household, we had so many deities in our puja room and our daily worship. But Swami was in the center of our family, and for me, it was Swami. When I refer to God, it was Swami right from my childhood. One of the basic things which linked us to Swami, as was mentioned by brother, was my grandfather being a Shirdi Sai devotee. And much later, in one of the family interviews we got with Swami, Swami recollected as to how my grandfather had gone through various trials and tribulations, various ups and downs in his life, and how Swami has always been with him. And he reiterated the Shirdi Sai Connect, and he created a small idol of Shirdi Sai, and he gave it to my grandfather and said that this is the exact way in which Shirdi Sai looked, not the way it has been depicted by all the idols which are sold elsewhere. So Swami gave us a connect right from the path which my grandfather was following with Shirdi Sai and to the Swami's fold. The basic childhood memory when I go back, when I think about my life with Swami has been going and attending a bhajan with my mother as a youngster when I was hardly 7 or 8 years old. Now this bhajan session was unlike what we talk of bhajan sessions today. This was conducted in the house of auntie, senior devotee in a small town in Tamil Nadu called as Salem. Now, these people had access to Swami and proximity to Swami almost from 1950s and 60s. And this auntie used to conduct a bhajan in her house, and it was she playing on a veena and singing a song. The participants included me, my mother, and maybe one or two members of a family. It was only 4 or 5 of us sitting there. And the entire wall used to be like a typical Indian household. So many deities photos were there, and lots of Swami's photos were also there in black and white. I am talking about somewhere in the mid 70s, like somewhere in 1976, 77, that kind of time. And when this auntie used to sing, and I used to be just an observer as a 7 or 8 year old, my mother also used to sing a bhajan. And sometimes it was a bhajan, sometimes it was just a song, I think some kirtis or something. I don't remember exactly now. The beauty was the flower which was kept on Swami's photo used to sway. It used to just drop down, and sometimes it was so pronounced. It was not just dropping; it was almost as if Swami is throwing it down. That kind of incidents it used to take place then. So much so, this auntie used to pray at before the start of the bhajan sessions on Thursday that Swami, at least today, please keep some flowers for yourself. This was the kind of prayer the auntie used to do before the bhajan is to start. Now you just imagine the impact this has on a 7 or 8 year old kid. Here was a Swami whom I was praying, and there we sit for a bhajan, and the response from Swami is instant in terms of acknowledging the prayer which is being done. So this had a very deep impact on me right at the beginning of my, when I was getting into Sai fold. Apart from this, there was an incident which where my grandfather was saved from a head-on car collision on a rainy day. Not only was the car saved from a collision, but it also didn't go and hit a tree which was there on the side of the road. And miraculously, with no damage to the vehicle and not to the occupants, he just came out alive. And he came home and described this scene. Again, I remember this, and as to how Swami saved him on that rainy night, immediately after the incident. And around the same time, again, he had a major ailment, and Swami appeared in his dream and just cured him during the night. And he just woke up to be perfectly all right. So all these incidents which happened motivated us to come as a family and have Swami's darshan. That's how we came and had Swami's first darshan together as a family. While some members of the family had already had prior to that, but together as a family, we came on August 15th, Indian Independence Day in 1978. And we came and had Swami's darshan. Now, post this darshan, as mentioned, as per my wish of my late father, Swami graciously gave me an admission into Satya Institute of Higher Learning in 1987. Now, what was unique about my admission in that year was probably it might be the only instance in the entire history of the university, I do not know, if where both me and my mother got admitted on the same day. My mother, after my passing away of my father, was graciously allowed to do B.Ed. After almost a gap of 15, 17 years of education. She's joined for B.Ed in Anandpur campus, and of course the campus was in Brindavan in those days for the women B.Ed. And I joined as a B.Com graduate. So on the same day, Swami blessed the family and admitted both of us. Now, prior to this, I just want to say one more thing, which was a very important facet of my life. Apart from praying to Swami and seeing how Swami responded and various miracles, was being lucky enough to be born and brought up in a place called Coimbatore, which is in Tamil Nadu again. It comes very close to Ooty, Nilgiris. The benefit of growing up in this small town was that Swami used to frequent Ooty very frequently, 1978 onwards, especially when the school started. And Swami also used to come to Kodaikanal. Now, Swami coming to Ooty in those days, 78, 79, Swami's abode, Nandanavanam, hardly 50 to 100 devotees used to be there. You just can't imagine. In the Swami used to come out for darshan. We were not even enough people to sit in one full circle. So Swami used to come out for darshan. We will be in one part of the circle. There was a lawn, circular lawn with a water fountain in between. So we used to sit in one part of the circular lawn. Swami used to come. By the time Swami used to walk, the people in this side of the circle used to run and go and sit in the other part of the circle. So like this, we used to run and we used to have Swami's darshan. And you can just imagine the amount of love, attention and care one would have got as even as a devotee sitting there. I am not talking about 1950s and 60s. I am talking about 79, 80. And if it used to get very cold or raining, Swami used to just ask the devotees to come inside the school campus, that is Nandanavanam. We used to sit with the students then and we used to participate in the bhajans or some talk or something. So it was a very, very close, knit darshan we used to have with Swami in those days in Ooty. Similarly in Kodaikanal also, Swami used to make a private visit. There was no Sai Shruti in those days. Swami used to come to the house of a senior devotee, used to stay there. And hardly we used to be 8 or 10 of us because there was no darshan timing. It was a private visit. So we used to just go and sit outside this devotee's house. It was a dead-end road in the mountain. And again, one of the enduring images I carry of Swami is Swami used to just come and lean on the gate. He used to put his hands like this, lean on the gate and look at us. And 3 or 4 ladies on the one side and some 5, 6 gents on the other side. We used to sing bhajans extempo. Swami enjoying, nodding his head and maybe asking few questions or anything. And we used to just wait the whole day there because Swami would come anytime to come and talk to us or just give us a darshan. So these were some of the memories with which I came and joined Satsai Institute. But once I came here, it was a totally different zone altogether. Swami and his relationship with his boys was totally. Swami used to say in those days that I spend 75% of my time for my students. 75% of my time is only for my students, and Swami really proved it. And the amount of love and care the students got and attention we got from Swami was something unimaginable. For me, coming from this kind of background, having seen Swami right from childhood, both in physical form and otherwise, to come into this kind of physical proximity was a great opportunity. Now, prior to joining this, there was some small hiccup in my mind. When it was proposed that I should come, I had my thought in my mind, I have not lived a life maybe which is up to the standard which Swami expects of a Sai student. Maybe I am not worthy of coming and joining as a Sai student. So this was a dilemma in my mind. So while I came and appeared for my written test and entrance exam, I was hesitant to come and see the results because I was not sure if I will be selected. But at one such time, on one of those nights in my hometown in Coimbatore, Swami just came in my dream. I was just standing under a tree, and a huge tree. I was standing under the tree. Facing me was a black gate, which was just closed. And suddenly the gate opened. I saw some hundreds of students coming out, wearing white and white. And Swami came behind the students, came directly to me and told me, I have given you admission. Come. So this was the word Swami gave and gave me Padnamskar. So I just packed my bags and rushed to Parthi. And I was there in time to see my name being declared as being selected for BCom course in 1987. So that was the first experience of how I entered the Satsai Institute. Now, once you enter, see, we are all people with a lot of rough edges. These rough edges need to be smoothened out. Now, what I would like to share from here on, few instances is, while all great instances which have happened in Parthi, Vrindavan, a lot of students would have shared, but I would like to share how Swami took me to the crucible of his discipline and how he shaped me out to make me fit for leading a life both there as a student and also for a life beyond as a student of Satsa Institute of Ireland. One of the first lessons when I joined there was spirituality is all about letting go. So one of the first instructions from Swami was, don't go and meet your old friends. Don't join with your old friends. Very difficult for a 16, 17-year-old guy, but with great difficulty I did that. Next came the next instruction. Even within hostel, we were a group of boys who enjoyed having food together, sleeping together, going and playing games. Swami called me one day, and again all the instructions Swami gave or the way he corrected me was all in full public glare. It was open, stern father's command to me. So one fine day, while I was a student in Vrindavan, in Thrive Vrindavan session, Swami just called and told me, you are a gang of 5. Swami said, gang of 5, moving around everywhere. And Swami told me, Swami is a true friend and have only God as a true friend. And the next day, since I was a store boy, and even in store, Swami continued in the same theme. Swami said, friends may say hello, hello. Their heart is hollow. Swami is the only friend you can have in your life, and Swami is the true friend. So with this, the next difficult phase of, being socially active in the hostel, but at the same time maintaining this directive of Swami came into play. Then came the next step. Why I am explaining is there's a reason for this. Then came the next step. Swami said, don't watch TV. I said, okay, Swami. So when I went home, while the entire family sat and watched TV, I used to just move to the next room, read a book or something like that. While some of my cousins were amused and others, you are at the butt of the joke. But I continued. But I thought I have lived up to Swami's expectation. But when I came back, Swami said, what did you do during all this? I said, did you watch TV? I said, no. Swami said, is it? I said, no, Swami, I didn't watch. Who was the person who went up the staircase and sat with so-and-so and while talking was watching the TV? So I raked my brain. Then I realized, well, in my home I was not watching the TV, I was sitting inside. I had to go and meet one of my family relatives. So going to their house, when I had gone to meet them, the TV was on. Obviously, when I go to somebody's house, I can't ask them to switch off their TV when I have gone to meet them. So I sat and spoke to them. And innocently, while I was talking to them, my eyes also turned towards the TV, I guess. And Swami corrected it. I said, my God, okay, I shouldn't watch here. I shouldn't, when I go there also, I should avoid. Okay. Few days later, the next instance, when I had to go to again, another part of our family, extended family relatives, who are not Sai devotees at all. And there, the entire family again was sitting and watching a movie or something in the house. So now keeping all the background instances with Swami in mind, I came and sat outside and not wanting to create any further issue when I go back to meet Swami. And then Swami, the conversation ensued with one of my uncles. And then Swami, when I came back, asked me, how did the holidays go? I said, yes, Swami. Did you watch TV? I said, no, Swami. Are you sure? I said, yes, Swami. And I thought you went to your Swami, specifically relatives. Yes, Swami. When I went there also, I sat outside. Okay, what happened when your uncle came and asked? Then I was taken aback. I just folded my hand because I had told my uncle that Satyasai Baba, because they don't know what is Swami. I said, Satyasai Baba has told me not to watch, so I am not watching. So I thought I had done my duty. Swami said, what did you say? So I just kept quiet. I folded my hand. Swami said, your uncle asked this question and you answered saying that Sai Baba doesn't want you to watch the TV. Did you say? I said, yes, Swami. Why did you say like that? I thought, my God, I was following Swami's instruction. Swami said, you should have the confidence to say that I do not want to watch the TV. I don't want to see. And don't take recourse to Swami's name saying that Swami has not asked you to watch them. Then I thought to myself, Swami, I have to listen to you. I have to internalize what you say. and I have to do it out of my own free will and own my happiness. It's a very tall order. I didn't blurt it out to Swami. I just looked at Swami and said, okay, not only have you got to follow what Swami says, but you will have to go all the way to say that it's of your own will you're doing. Okay? The next point came. Again, this was very, very difficult to digest. I was studying in Parthi by then. My grandparents and mother, they stay in inside ashram. My mother and grandfather continue to do so still in Prashant Nilayam. Swami's instruction was very simple to me. Don't go home. You should not go home. In the sense, not come and visit them in our mandir ashram house also. I said, okay. But what made it very difficult was, my own younger brother, who was 5 years younger to me, Swami totally gave a different reason. Poor boy, he doesn't have father, he is missing his mother. Let him go and visit his mother whenever he wants. He can go and have food. This is the instruction Swami gave to the principal of the higher secondary school. Those days, Abu Sir. And then Swami said, let him go whenever he wants to meet his mother, poor boy. And so I thought, how is Swami using the same thing different? But again, the lesson which was coming to me very clearly was Swami is pushing me to a point where, like Krishna and Arjuna's dialogue, and Arjuna comes out saying, Karishye Vachanam Tavat. So don't argue, don't ask. When Swami says, just do it, makes sense to you, accept, it makes logically yes or no, but this is the path for you, just follow. So I continued. But interesting thing which happened there was, even during interval days when everybody went home, even my own brother went home to the Prashantin campus, inside the ashram, I continued staying in hostel. But on a Diwali day, after having Swami's darshan, hardly any boys were there that Diwali. It was winter holidays time. So when I was meeting my grandmother, who was alive then, near Ganesh gate, she said, today is Diwali, I'll cook the food you like, come home and have. Keeping in mind what Swami had told me, I said, no, I cannot come for lunch. I'll skip. She said, no, at least come home. You can take your warden's permission. Just come home, visit us and go. Today is a festival. Okay, I couldn't argue on that point. So I went and asked the warden then. I said, sir. He said, no, please go ahead. I said, I'll be back to hostel before lunchtime. He said, okay, no problem, go. So I went there. Hurriedly, my grandmother made dosas. I sat down on the floor. She made dosas and she kept going. I am explaining this is the reason. I had my dosa and chutney and everything. I went back to hostel and then I got into my routine. I had my lunch and evening darshan I came. Swami in the evening came for darshan. He was standing there and he was, those days in upper portico, Swami sometimes in the evening will spend time with the devotee, VIPs there and the students asking few questions. So everybody was in a very happy mode. Swami was, making everybody happy in a very humorous kind of thing. So he came near me and he also asked me a couple of humorous questions. I also answered and he lulled my defense. And then he asked me point blank, where are you staying? I said, Swami, in hostel. Are you going home? I said, no, Swami. Swami has told not to go home. I am not going. He said, who went today morning, sir? Who went and sat down and had so many dosas with this chutney and your grandmother was going to serving to you. So Swami described the entire scene. It is I am sharing a day-to-day occurrences. I just wanted, there is a reason again. And I became the butt of a joke and everybody laughed at my expense in the portico and Swami also joined in the laughter. But one-to-one, it was a very stern fatherly message to me. While it was a humor for others, for me it was a stern father's message. With this, all this happening, and again, another instance when Swami had told me I should not go on a bike, I agreed. Swami repeated it 3 times within a matter of 5 minutes. Don't go on a bike, don't go on a bike. I said, yes Swami, yes Swami, yes Swami 3 times. But something happened during holidays. I had to get onto a bike and Swami miraculously stopped the bike and remembering Swami's word, I came running back. So again when I came back, Swami accosted me and said, when I asked you not to go on a bike, why did you go on a bike? You would have died on the day. I saved your life and I brought you back here. If you it is only Swami's grace that you are alive today. Swami said this. Now all these instances when this happened, with all these events, Swami made it very clear to me that whatever I think, whatever I speak, whatever act I do, nothing is hidden from Swami. The words omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent became very, very clear to me because it was not an English word. In my case, I could see that Swami was present everywhere. In my case, I could see that Swami was aware of everything. And in my case, I could see that Swami had the power to save me from a certain death and keep me alive as a student. So it was a very, very powerful message to me, and it went on to create a very deep bond. And to this day, there is never any ambiguity in my mind as to understanding this omnipresence of Swami at any moment in my life. Now, after all these corrections, came on to the spiritual part of the life. Now, Swami started correcting me from the spiritual side. One of the first instances was, how should we pray? Now, those days in Vrindavan, in Rajeshwari Kalyan Mandap, in the evening bhajans, one of the boys who sits right under Swami's chair, in facing Swami's chair, had this unique opportunity of offering the talam, the symbols. You can just keep holding your hand with talam and symbols like this. And Swami, in course of the bhajan, could just pick it up from your hand and play the talam and symbols as students were singing the bhajan. So it was a very coveted opportunity, and I got many opportunities to sit like that. So one of the instances when I was there, when I was praying to Swami, Swami should take, silently praying when we are, bhajans are going on, and we are singing bhajans also. Swami is very particular that you need to follow the bhajans. So Swami, while taking the talam, he just looked at me and said, gestured like this, in the sense, did you have your lunch? In a very, very colloquial way. The meaning was, did you have lunch? If you had lunch, why are you not singing loud? That was the message. Here, the distance between me and Swami was the distance between me and this computer screen with which I am talking. So a thought came in my mind, how much more does Swami want me to sing loud? Can't Swami hear me? Was the thought which came to my mind. But I went up to my zenith, how much I could, I sang the bhajans. And this phase of Swami was, Swami always gave an instruction, expected it to follow, and he invariably explained why he said that. A few days later, inside Thrive, when few of us were there, Swami said, what do you want? I said, Swami, I want you. Then Swami looked at me and said, Nabi nunchi ravali. It should come from the depth of your navel. From the Nabi, it should come, prayer. So a very simple lesson, when you pray, how it should come. It's not from your mind or it's not from your tongue level. It has to come from the Nabi. Second, attending Omkara. Attending Omkaram in Vrindavan as a student was a very difficult thing in 80s. I don't mind admitting today. The weather in Vrindavan was not what it is today. We never used to measure weather on our basis like what Google does, and we keep seeing it everywhere. I'm sure it would have been around 11 degrees or 12 degrees during the month of October, November, December in my 80s. And in this kind of weather, to get up and go for Omkar in Vrindavan hostel was a very uphill task. While you couldn't absent yourself permanently, but you could. Many of us took advantage of taking a break whenever we could. I'm putting it in a very polite way. But Swami came on to the next part of lesson to me. On one try session, he just asked, how many of you are going to Omkar? And there was a pin drop silence in the try hall. It's not that everybody was not going. There are a vast majority of students, very, very regular, very sincere boys. Some of them were like me who took on and off. So Swami turned to the warden of those days and asked, are all boys going? He said, yes, Swami, they're going. Then Swami just gestured to me, he pointed out to me and said, is this boy going? So sitting from where he was, he couldn't see which boy Swami was pointing. So he got up and tried to see. Swami said, get up. Now this was very painful. As I said, Swami's corrections in public glare. This was one of the very painful incidents in my life. Swami made me stand up. I stood up. Swami said, is this boy going for Omkar? To my discomfort, the warden said, yes, Swami, he goes. I was in a very, very difficult position. Here Swami asking a question, and here the warden had so much faith that I am going. He answered, I am going. And Swami looked at me and nodded his head, saying, no, he is not going. No, Chapura, you tell, are you going? Swami asked. Now, I was in a catch-22 situation. I can't lie to Swami that I am going, nor could I say that I am not going when the warden of the hostel is saying that I am going. So I folded my hands, tears were trickling down my eyes. I didn't know how to handle the situation. As it is, I was humiliated standing up and being questioned by Swami. But Swami was in no mood to relent. As a stern father, he said, your mother is standing and praying in front of me 24 hours. Because again, he reiterated how he is omnipresent, he knows. And here you are, not even going to Omkar. And then Swami gave a command. It was not even a suggestion. I want this boy to go for Omkara. This is the instruction he gave to the authority. Now you can imagine with that kind of instruction, I was literally hounded. I could cry and I could curse all my fate, but the entire system was behind me. I had to start from 5:30, it was pushed to 5:20, 5:15. Till I was there in the prayer hall by 5 in the morning, I was not let go. So I had to sit from 5 onwards for a Omkaram which used to start at 5:30. Now I'll tell you how this helped in life. Last 2 years, pandemic, COVID, so many of us having so many. I went back to my basics because Swami explained the benefit of his Omkaram after 1 year. 1 year hence, when again in a different gathering when I was seated, Swami said, why does Swami ask you to do Omkara? He looked at me, reminding me what he had given instruction 1 year earlier. He said, apart from the spiritual benefits, when you chant the Om from the depth of your, again he said, from your Navi, it cleanses your entire respiratory system. You people are living in the city, you are inhaling the polluted air. If you chant Omkaram in the morning, it cleanses your entire respiratory system and you lead a healthy life. This was Swami's explanation. So during this COVID times, last 2 years, I have just followed this basic advice which Swami gave. Get up in the morning as early as you can and sit and chant the 21 Omkar, which Swami has made it mandatory for a student and also for devotees. So this is a simple lesson which has helped. So that was again another thing. Third was, like when Swami is giving an instruction like this in a public glare, not only you benefit, there are others who are listening to it who also get a message out of it. There was another instance like this. Again, a very well-known industrial family from Bombay. They had their factories in Bombay, but they had one another industry in Bangalore, very close to Whitefield. Now, this owner of this factory, very old Swami's devotee, had constructed Shirdi Baba temple inside the factory, and he wanted Swami to come and do the inauguration of the temple. So Swami said, this is the typical interaction. Those who are studied in in a prize session. Swami said, okay, I will come, but I will come only if my students come. So the devotee said, yes, Swami, students can come. Okay, if my students come, what will you give to my students? Now, this kind of dialogue is to happen with me enjoying this discussion between the Lord and his devotee. He will say, Swami, I can give them one ice cream. Swami said, no, one is not enough. You need to give them 2 ice cream. And then Swami said, no, ice cream is not enough. You need to give them breakfast. And then said, what will you give for breakfast? So the devotee said, Swami, whatever it is. No, you tell me the menu. So like this, Swami kept on building the tempo for a period of 6-7 days prior to this inauguration. And the day of inauguration came, and the bus was arranged, and we were supposed to follow Swami's car, go to this place where this factory was there, participate in inauguration ceremony, have breakfast and all this whatever goodies the devotee was giving, and come back. This was the program. Now, on the day of this inauguration, the entire devotee and his family obviously are waiting at the factory, awaiting Swami's arrival with his students. The devotee's grandson was a junior studying with us. He was still in school. He had also observed these discussions going on between his grandfather and Swami. He had come for the darshan, and he was there in the morning. Swami quickly came early in the morning since he was going to go. He went for darshan, giving darshan to devotees. He came back. So 3 or 4 of us were sitting, and this boy was standing, just kneeling 1 row behind us. So Swami came, looked at him. Kyara, is everything ready? Your grandfather skipped. He said, yes, Swami, everything. And Swami just asked him 1 or 2 questions. What is there? Is this arrangement done? That arrangement. Then Swami just asked him few questions. Then Swami said, is ice creams and all kept ready for the boys? He said, how many ice creams? Swami, he is very enthusiastic. Child is, yes, Swami, I got 1 ice cream. No, 2 ice cream. Yes, Swami, 2 ice cream. So everything went on fine till then. Then Swami just changed his tone. It was very difficult for me to listen. I don't know how that boy took it. Swami said, who are you to give, sir? This was the one statement Swami made, and he just walked. I don't know about that boy. Until then, I was in a parachute, just landing very smoothly, looking at the ground below with all beauty and enjoying it. With that one sentence of Swami, I felt as if the parachute was cut off and I was hurtling towards the ground. It was a very difficult exercise in curbing your ego. And I realized the day that whatever you do, whatever happens, the entire credit only goes to God. Everything is by God's grace. We are not there to take ownership or credit for anything. It was a very deep lesson which I learned from that incident. And with all humility, I'm sharing, not to put anybody in the bad light. So this was a great lesson. Now, apart from this, I spoke about how to pray, what to pray. Now, many times, Swami has given discourses and many books we might have seen, Swami talking very clearly. When you are praying to Swami, do not ask for this, don't ask for this, just ask for His grace. Accept. He knows what to give. And because if you ask, you may be asking less than what He wants to give. So do not make a mistake. Just ask for His grace and let the God give whatever He wants. It's a very great lesson. So when I was again studying in Perthi, I was the captain of the cricket team. So the house match was there, finals. So on that day, we made a card with the 2 teams, and myself and the other captain, we went and sat in the front in the morning. And since it was festival time, it was sports meet time, festival time, so we prayed to Swami, and I said, Swami, please come to ground. Swami, Vasanle. Swami said, I'll come. And blessed the card, and then Swami went for darshan. So I was overjoyed. So both of us came back, and the entire team was lined up on both sides of the road near Shanti Vedika in Hillview Stadium, and we were waiting for Swami's arrival. So after some time, because all of the students were in the mandir because the functions were going on, Swami's car entered. On those days, there was no Chaitanya Jyoti, or only the statues were there up in the hill, and Hanuman statue had just been inaugurated. And no Chaitanya Jyoti. And you could see the entire ground was open, from this end to that, and there was no stadium also, nothing. It was just open view you had of the ground. So Swami's car entered the other end, and we were all lined up. We were waiting for Swami's car to come so that Swami will walk. We could take part in his car, and then with Swami's blessings, go ahead and start the cricket match. The car entered there, stopped for a few seconds. It just took a U-turn and it just went up. So the team gathered there. They were a bit confused. They said, I thought you said Swami said he'll come. I said, yes, he also heard Swami told clearly he'll come. But we were in a dilemma. Then, since we had to start the game, we started. So I was all alone with the match. My mind was not on the match. I said, what would have gone wrong when Swami said he'll come? Why this happened like this? Because everything was going smoothly. Then by the time after playing in the hot sun, the entire match, and before we could go for evening session, it dawned on me, what was my statement? I said, Swami, please come to ground. Swami kept up his word, and he came all the way to the ground, and he went back from the ground. The mistake was on my way of praying. I should have either prayed, Swami, please grace us, or bless us. Swami might have all the way come and maybe sat and watched few overs of the match also, but I didn't know. Again, how do you pray to Swami also was a lesson which I learned there. Then before I move on to the next phase of my life, as I said, a lesson which is taught to a person is not only for the person, for people all around. Sometimes the lesson is also taught through a person other than Swami. Swami works for another person also. This was a very, very unforgettable incident in my life, and it just took my entire concept of thinking. It just changed the entire dimension of my thinking, and I will ever be indebted to Swami and also to this devotee about whom I am going to speak. Again, this happened in Vrindavan. There used to be again a very senior devotee. I'm not taking any devotee's name because I have not taken anybody's permission. So he was a very senior devotee, and Swami used to call him. This devotee again was from Bombay, and Swami used to call him as my Hanuman. And he was very childlike, and even though he was very, very ahead in life, and he used to always sit with us students because normally VIPs will not sit with the students in the Vrindavan. But he used to sit along with us and have Swami darshan. Swami, when he's going, he'll also have Namaskar along with students. On one such day, I found myself sitting next to this uncle right in front of Sai Vrindavan main door in the morning. Those days, Swami will open the door by himself and come out at 8 or 8:05. And it was a clear rule that once you enter the darshan grounds, especially in Vrindavan, Patti also, but in Vrindavan, talking is out of the question. Turning your head left and right also will get retribution from Swami. Because I have been the receiving end of it just for turning my head, waiting for Swami's darshan in the morning. Just not even talking, I'm being very clear. So when I'm sitting next to this uncle, he just asked me straight away, how does Swami know everything? Now, I was in no mood to talk to him, and I'm sitting right outside the main door. So I just ignored him. I acted as if I didn't listen, but he persisted. It came to a point where I realized that I can't avoid it. So I just, without turning my eyes, turning my head, I just said, Swami is Antaryami. He said, that's what Swami tells us. You tell me how Swami knows everything. Now I said this discussion is not going the way I wanted, because if he keeps asking me questions like this and Swami comes out and sees me talking, waiting for darshan, I'll have a very tough time. So after a few seconds, I just told him, Uncle, you only tell, I don't know. I thought at least let him keep talking, let me not look at it. So what went the next few seconds was the blessing of many lifetimes. He said, have you seen the photo of the Vishnu, the Virat Swarup in Hindu households? I thought for a second, the photo where Mahavishnu is there with some 4 heads this side, 4 heads that side, a lot of things in his tummy, there is a Kamadhenu here. Have you seen that kind of a photo, the Virat? I said, yes, I've seen. What do you think about it? Do you think that the artist just imagined something and he's just drawn and he just let his imagination run wild? I said, no. He said, what is the meaning of that? Then he said, if you're sitting here, there is an ant which is biting your leg. How do you respond? I said, it's my leg. I know what is happening. So if an ant bites your leg, you understand and you react to it immediately. Same thing happens with your hand or anything. It goes and pushes away the ant. This entire cosmos, the entire Brahmanda is contained in the Lord, Narayana, the Virat Swarup of the Lord. So, the Lord knows everything. There is no question of he not knowing this or knowing that. Everything is known to him because everything is contained in him. Believe me, this I'm putting it in very simple words because we are in a short frame of time. So I am just, it was the utterance of this word just clicked something in my mind. I don't know, I'm not able to explain to this day what happened to me. It just changed the way I looked at the entire concept of omnipresence. And moment this uncle uttered this word, tuck, the tribal door opened. Out came Swami, walked straight to us, gave Padnamaskar to me, gave Padnamaskar to the uncle. In fact, he tapped my head, tapped the uncle's head, blessed us and went. It was a most powerful message as to what is omnipresence and how God is aware of everything. When you go through something like this, it becomes a lesson for maybe many lifetimes to understand the omnipresence of the Lord. Now, with all these experiences, with all these treatments and corrections, I moved into the corporate world. So I came from a life where Swami was an omnipresent Swami for me, whom I worshipped him as a picture. Again, he had proved to me right at a young age that worship the picture as God and not the God as picture, Swami's words. So having worshipped, came into the powerful presence of Swami, physical presence, and now again I was stepping out into a corporate career, moving away as a student into the wide world, open world. Now, one of the first things which happened as soon as I walked out was, Swami created a communication channel. I'm not in a position to explain this here. It will be very difficult to tell, where I could relate when Swami wants me to do something. It was some kind of a communication channel which just started with Swami with no effort from my side. But it started right from the day I stepped out after taking Swami's Namaskar and Vibhuti and started my career. One of the first things which happened in my very first job was I was not too happy with the amount of way I was running around, but I felt that I was not getting the due recognition for all my efforts, and so on and so forth, not getting into the details of it, but I was very down one day that in spite of all my efforts, I was not getting the right recognition. So I was so much down that I just got up from my desk, went to the washroom, washed my face with cold water 3-4 times. I just came back to my seat. When I came back to my seat, there was a piece of paper which was there on my table. There was a saying which was written on the paper. It said, there is no limit to where you can go or what you can achieve in life if you don't mind who gets the credit. This was the message there. There is you understand, in nutshell, Nishkama Karma. Swami put it in an English where I could understand as an English medium student. Nishkama Karma didn't communicate the same meaning as this statement. I was literally overjoyed seeing this statement and seeing this message on my table. I again got up, went for a cup of coffee. By the time I came back, the paper was not on my table. It was as if the message appeared only to make me understand what is the way I should approach this attitude which I have in my mind, or this state of affairs which was surrounding me. That was one great lesson, and Swami again proved his presence with me always. One of the, another instance where he showed his omnipresence is one of the great blessings while I was a student. One of the instances when I had an opportunity to have a personal interview with Swami. Swami took me inside a personal interview room, sat me down, and spoke for what looked like an eternity, maybe for 3 or 4 minutes, in a language which I could not understand. It was just Swami talking. He spoke in a language which to this day I don't know what was the language and what Swami spoke. But 4 minutes, I was just folding my hands and looking at Swami, and Swami spoke for 4 minutes. At the end of 4 minutes, Swami put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Keep coming and going." Said, "Take Namaskar," and I came out. I couldn't make anything out of this statement. I first thought Swami meant I'll keep getting more opportunities to be physically present closer to Swami by getting more interviews or more opportunities to serve Swami. Then I thought in different dimensions. It kept on going. At one stage, I even thought maybe it's a cosmic statement saying that I'll keep being born and dying. So at different times, it had a different meaning for me. But one meaning which stuck for the last 35 years has been, I have had the opportunity of coming to Parthi very frequently. When I say, whenever I've been in Bangalore, currently I'm in Bangalore, I make a point to visit Parthi at least once a week, sometimes even twice a week. And the frequency has been immense. It has been purely His grace. If you had not made the statement, I wouldn't have. It's not that you will and go. It's impossible. It is unless until the Lord permits you, you can't step out. Because I am privy to another discussion where I heard Swami saying, unless I will, you can't even step out of your house. Where is the question of you coming to Prashanthini? Swami had told somebody else whom I was privy to here. So it was really His grace. So in one such instance, when I was driving, my wife was there with me, I was driving, I was going at 100 kilometers per hour or more in my car. And always there will be a rush when I'm driving because I want to reach Parthi before Swami comes for darshan, or at least if the first round of darshan is over. Swami in those days used to come for second round after interview. So I wanted to be there before that so that then I can have the darshan, participate in the morning bhajan, so on and so forth. The idea is to reach fast. As I was driving at 100 plus on the road, the back rear wheel on the left to my left just got punctured at that speed, and the vehicle started wobbling. And those of you who are frequent drivers, you will understand the state of affairs. The vehicle effectively is not in a control, and you can't apply brake when you are in that kind of situation. Literally, you have to pray and allow the car to complete its momentum, and luckily, God wills, you are able to stop, or you just go and have a crash anywhere else. In my case, with very carefully monitoring the steering and handling it, slowly I brought it to the side of the road. After another 1.5 to 2 kilometers, the vehicle stopped. Now, this was by itself a miracle. On a road, those days it was not highways, it was two-way road where trucks and buses were coming opposite side also. And stopping it there, and then where do I stop? In the entire stretch where nothing is there, there is a hut. And there is a fellow sitting outside a hut. And it's a puncture shop. On a highway where nothing else is there, here is a man sitting with a puncture facility. And those were the days where you had the tire and the tube. It was not tubeless tires. And he was surprised. He said, "How did you stop here?" I said, "I don't know. I just slowed down." "Then how do you know that I am there?" I said, "I didn't know. I just came." And exactly, without even me breaking a sweat, he changed the tire and I could reach. Again, Swami showed his omnipresence, that when you are coming for Swami's work and when you are coming with an intention, Swami is always there to guide. Now, I'll quickly move to another instance in life. Again, it had its own humor, but again, communicated a very deep lesson. This happened when I was working in Singapore. Now, while working in Singapore, Singapore, they have a lottery. The government itself conducts a lottery every month, which has a prize money of 2 million. Now, I never looked at it and I was never enthused by it. I thought, but one fine day when I was going out for some work, I had been seeing this lottery guy selling almost for 3 years. So I said, what is that? Let me just try it. So I paid a $2. I'm mentioning the amount with purpose, and bought a lottery which will, if I am lucky, will give me 2 million. Taking the lottery, I folded it, kept it in my pocket, went and got into a cab. Now, typically in all these foreign countries, the FM radio will be going on. So this cab, the FM radio was going on. I got into the cab, and a very popular English song, the exact line played as I got in and closed the door. The line went like this. It's a very popular song. "Don't count 2 for 2 million. I love you just the way you are." It's a very famous romantic song, but it had a totally different meaning for me. I had just paid $2, bought a $2 million ticket, and come and sat, and this line said, "Don't count 2 for 2 million. I love you just the way you are." I then realized, my God, what a fool I have been. I have wasted $2. Why did I go and do this when I know that Swami doesn't like all these things? I sat and I went, finished my work for 2 hours, came back to my office, got into my cabin. When I came into my cabin, on my desk, there was a brown envelope. On that envelope, my name was written, my full name. So I just took the envelope, came out, my staff were sitting outside. I asked them, "Did any of you come and keep the envelope here?" They said, "No, we have not kept." "Did anybody come in and keep the envelope?" I said, "Nobody entered the office." So I was intrigued. There is an envelope with my name. So I opened the envelope and saw inside. There were 2 $1 bill of US, 2 US $1 bill. The answer was, I sat with the $2 bill in my hand. Then I realized, here I was, went and spent 2 Singapore dollars and bought a ticket and got this message, and I regretted it. By the time I came back, Swami had refunded me with interest in US dollars, 2 US dollars. To this day, I keep those 2 US dollar notes with me, as this happened 22 years back. I just keep it in my wallet as a memory of Swami's love and affection. And again, it was an instance where Swami proved his omnipresence to me. And another experience connected to Swami's role in my life, in my corporate career. Again, I had an opportunity to go to Myanmar somewhere in 2000, early 2000 that time. Again, I was living in Singapore that time. It was against my wishes. I had no intention of going because my hands were full. I was heading this organization. I didn't have any time, but the board and the chairman of the board was very keen that I should go and explore an opportunity in Myanmar. So against all my wishes, and they ensured that I should stay there for 10 days, come what may, and come up with a proper project report before the next board meeting. So against all my wishes, I went and took a flight. So I was sitting in Singapore airport to go to Yangon in Myanmar. To reflect my state of mind, rarest of rare occasion which happens in Singapore, the flight was delayed by 4 hours. I cursed my luck. Here I don't want to go, and leaving all the work in office here, I'm sitting here. So I didn't have anything to do. I just called up one of Sai devotee, whom I hold in a very high esteem. I called him, I told him Sai Ram, and he said, where are you? I said, in the airport, I'm going to Yangon. And what time is it? I said, no, it's got delayed. Then this devotee said, just take down this number and this name. Maybe you talk to him, he has got some contact. Again, you see, it's not a direct contact. He may be of help to you in Myanmar. So since I had nothing to do, I called this person, other person. I said, Sairam, I have given you a reference. That person knew me, but not so much. I am going here. He said, absolutely no problem. He gave me a person's name and number. You please contact him. He'll help you in Yangon. So I came and landed. Whatever efforts I could do, I could finish it in the first one day itself and realized I was heading nowhere. I hit a wall. And I was thinking, what am I going to do for the next 9 days sitting in this country? So then I remembered this person's number and the name which has been given to me. And I just called up this person. The moment the phone was picked up at the other end, I could hear a bell ringing. So it sounded auspicious to me. So then he was in the midst of some prayer. So he asked, who are you? I said, I am so and so, I have been referred to so and so. You come here directly, we'll talk. So how do I reach you? I asked him. He said, just get into a cab and tell my name, they'll bring you. It looked like a movie scene. I didn't believe what I heard. Before I could ask him the next question, he disconnected the line. So I kept the phone down. I came down to the lobby of the hotel. The concierge asked me, sir, where would you like to? Because in Yangon, in those days, in 2000, not many people spoke English. So he was, as a concierge, he wanted to help me. He asked me, where do you want to go? So I thought for a minute what to tell him. I said, I want to meet so-and-so, I told him. Yes, but where's the address, he asked me. I told him very sheepishly, maybe the gentleman told me that the taxi driver will know. Can you please get a taxi? So he didn't want to offend a guest. He called a cab driver. A cab driver came. So he just told him in the local language that he wants to meet so-and-so. So that guy, without a moment's hesitation, he said, please get him. We'll go. So I was stunned. I got into the cab. Without my directing anywhere, just with the name, and Yangon is also not a small city, he just took me straight to that person's place. Now there I go. It is on the front was a place which was dealing in all the herbs, all those medicinal herbs. I thought for myself, what kind of place have I come? I went into the shop selling medicinal herbs. Then I saw this man sitting. Then he said, since sometimes in life, when you meet some people, you have an immediate connect. There is something which connects you, you can't explain. So he just took on to me the moment I went in, and I also felt a kind of bond to him immediately. I'm not able to explain anything better than this now. So he said, please come up, let's go to. So it was an ancient shop house. So he had a shop down, and his house was on the first floor. A typical, you can go in any Mumbai also, you can see those kind of areas in all these crowded areas, So I went up to the first floor, beautiful house. He was, he had not married. He was a bachelor and he was 60 plus in those days. And he sat me down, what brings you to this country, the city, so on, the casual conversation, everything. Then I told him, then he took charge of my itinerary from there on. He said, okay, you go and meet so and so. He fixed the meeting, he arranged the vehicle, and I went and met that person. But he said, whomever you meet, your lunch is with me, your dinner is with me. So I used to go and meet the topmost people in Burma, in those days, Myanmar, the top business people, top industrialists, everybody. At one stretch of my meetings, I went and met the defense minister of the country. I'm not exaggerating. I went and met the defense minister of the country, and I came back. And all along, he had a Mitsubishi Pajero. Again, this is the reason I'm saying this vehicle. And he used to send me with his driver. And the cops on the road never used to stop the vehicle. I was treated like a royalty. So I used to ask the driver, that boy could speak a little bit of Hindi, Nepali and all. So I asked him, how even signals, he said, no, this belongs to your host. And he gives it to visiting dignitaries and to the Prime Minister and others. So the cop doesn't know who is there inside. So whenever they see this vehicle on the road, they give completely the way for this vehicle. So I was stunned. So, and I also, and so on and so forth. And I didn't know where this was all leading to. The last day for my departure came, and all along all these 9 days, he took care of me. I had my lunch and dinner with him. He said, only breakfast you have in your hotel, since you have already paid for it, or else I would have insisted you come and have breakfast also. And as a father, he treated me. So on the last day, I thought of asking him, what is it that made him do so much for me? Because he was not expecting anything from me, and he had gone out of the way in making my stay comfortable. So on the last day, when I was sitting and I had 4 or 5 hours before my flight was going to take off, he took me into his puja room. He had a huge hall where puja room, and there what do I see? A photo of Swami in the middle of the puja room. I had tears in my eyes. I did a Shashtang Namaskar and I came out. Then he also came. I politely asked him, all these photos here, I saw one photo also. Do you know Sai Baba? I asked him. He asked me, who? This photo? I said, yes, Satsai Baba, yes. He said he is a person of Indian origin, but he has never visited India. Somewhere in 1977-78, he visited India for the only time in his life. He came all the way from Myanmar, Calcutta, and he went all around going to all the religious places. In course of his travel, he landed up in Vrindavan, and he wanted to have Swami's darshan. But by the time he came, Swami had already finished darshan and gone in. But since he had come all the way, he stood with a tray of fruits and also a garland for Swami. And he went and stood outside before Prime Vrindavan, the old Vrindavan building, outside the gate. Those days people are allowed to take garland for Swami. And he waited, come what may, having come what may. He wanted to have darshan of this, for him it was a saint, this divine person. And after 1.5 hours of his waiting, his patience paid off. Swami came out, blessed him, he garlanded Swami, he offered the tray of fruits to Swami, took Swami's Swadhamskar, God blessed, and went on his way down south, Madurai, everywhere, Kanyakumari, and he went back. That was the only darshan he had of Swami, and he had taken a picture of Swami and kept it in his altar. That was more than enough, because this was a spiritual man, he was an ardent Buddhist, and he was doing so much social service that one darshan was enough for him, but for me, it answered very clearly why this man went out of the way. The bond which Swami has created, and then I understood, my presence shall go before thee. When we use the word in the remotest place, this is how Swami again showed how his omnipresence works for his students and for his devotees. I'm sure many people would have. Now, so on and so forth. I just want to move on to the next phase of my life now. Everything after this Swami's Sannidhi. This is an event which shook the entire Sai fraternity, and I was also not an exception. All along my life, I always feared the day should not come when I am not able to have Swami's darshan. Not because Swami will not be there physically, because I may not get space to come in, because Swami had told it many times. So that is the reason why I used to rush to Parthi at every given opportunity, in spite of my family saying, why are you straining so much? My classmates, my relatives, so much so, even my teachers in Parthi, they used to say, why are you coming like this once a week, twice a week? But I kept on doing it because my worry was I won. But I never in my imagination thought, Swami's physical presence will not be there and I will still be going. So this was a great shock for the entire fraternity. It took me a 1 month, I'll be very honest, to come out of this. Post that month, I got back into my equilibrium because of the way I have explained. For me, Swami was always the omnipresent one. And the physical presence, what I learned, he continued into, again, the next phase of the omnipresence which I saw. So there was no ambiguity in my mind that Swami was there or not there. And some of these instances translate in a totally different way for some people. I want to explain this with one more example which happened in my life. After I had completed education in Swami's Institute and I had gone and taken up my job, in the year 1993, again with all humility I am sharing this experience, please do not take this in a negative way. In the year 1993, India Today ran an article on Swami which was in a very negative way. There was a very negative article which happened with Swami's photo on the cover of India Today. Many of you may remember. This was in 1993. So the organization where I was working, there was one senior person who knew that I came from this institute. So he was not a side devotee. So he said, what is this, your Baba? Like that he was talking, so I just didn't pay heed to him. So after this article came, he called me into his cabin. I went to his cabin. He made me sit across the table. He just took this magazine and he just pushed it across the table. Hey, what they have written about your Baba? And read, he told. I said, no sir, I don't want to read. He asked me, why? You don't have the guts to face the facts? I said, no, not like that. I don't need somebody else to tell me the greatness or the character or the goodwill of my mother. Do I need somebody else to tell me about my mother? This is my divine mother. So why do I need somebody to tell me and enable me to take a decision? I have already convinced this is my divine mother. So he sat back. I mean, in a corporate atmosphere, these kind of discussions don't take place. And I am talking about people at a general manager level, so they don't hear these kind of things going on. So he was taken aback. He kept quiet. So the scene ended there. I went home the evening after the day. And I was just standing outside my home. And this gentleman happened to stay closer to my home. I didn't know it. I realized it that day. I saw him going by the road when I was standing outside my house. And he just engaged me in a discussion. And then after a few minutes, he said, come to my home, he told me. Okay. I had nothing else to do. And then he was my senior. I said, okay, I'll go with him. I went to his home. When I went and reached his home, he introduced me to his wife. He had a son. And then he told, he's also a Baba devotee like you. That's all. That lady took on to me from that moment. And we started talking about Swami. She explained her life and everything. After a few minutes, she said, why don't you tell this man, she's pointing at her husband, about Swami, and make him understand what is Swami. So now I was caught between husband and wife. Then I thought how best to handle the situation. Then I just narrated. So I started speaking for a few minutes. So after a few minutes, the man stopped me and said, where is your Baba now? He asked. I said, he's in Kodaikanal now. He's come to Kodaikanal. See, at the time I was working in Coimbatore. He said, how do you have darshan of Baba? Yes. I said, no, we have to go there and you have to sit there amidst devotees. You can. When can we go? He asked me. I was surprised, the speed at which things are happening. I said, no, we can go whenever you say. Can we go tomorrow? He asked. I looked at my watch. It was 8 in the night. Tomorrow morning, I said, Kodaikanal, because it is at a distance of 150 kilometers from my place, and you have to climb the ghats and everything. Yes. So hurriedly we arranged for a vehicle, and we bundled ourselves in the vehicle. So not only he, his wife and son, myself, and I had one of my uncle joining me, one more relative of his joined in a good old ambassador. We just drove up the mountains. We went to Kodai. We reached Kodai, and as soon as we reached Kodai, I told him, sir, you stand in this line with all your relatives and ladies stand there. I am going in. He said, why are you going in? I said, I am a student. I am allowed. I'll be given a seat in front. So I told him, and I went in and I sat outside that cry in those days where alumni used to wait for Swami's darshan. Within few minutes, I saw this man coming and sitting right opposite to me in the opposite enclosure. So I was stunned. How did it happen? So I did not ask a question. With my background as Swami, I enter a darshan hall, I don't talk. I looked at him with a surprise. He made it bold and openly talk because he doesn't know the. He said, I saw you going. I told the Sevadal I am with him. I just followed you. And he came and he was seated right with the students in opposite enclosure. He sat. Okay, then I realized something is going to happen today because, you get a premonition, Because here is a man who didn't believe in Swami. Within a matter of 24 hours, he's sitting for Swami's darshan and he's sitting right opposite to me in Kodaikanal. So I thought, let us see how things are going to pan out. So Swami came out. So now my attention was on this man rather than on Swami. I wanted to see how it is going to happen. So Swami came, walked and came. This man looked around. Everything happened within a matter of 1 minute. He looked around, he saw everybody were having a letter in their hand. He didn't have a letter in his hand. He thought that he also needed to give a letter. So he immediately started tapping people. Can you give me a paper? Can you give me a pen? So people who have come there all the way, they're waiting for Swami's darshan. Nobody is going to entertain him. But he wouldn't leave them because he didn't know there's etiquettes and everything. So finally, in desperation, one fellow who had a letter, he said, you have got only a letter written half the page. You give me the remaining half the page. Imagine, in the darshan ground, he tore the letter into two, gave the guy half the page where he had written, he took the remaining half, snatched a pen from somewhere, scribbled something on it urgently, folded the letter, and by the time Swami came. So everybody, in spite of all this confusion he created, people kept glued on Swami and while he did this drama, and I was looking at this man with aghast, what is he doing? So he was sitting in the letter, Swami came, straight went to him and his son, took the letter from his hand, blessed him, blessed his son, and went. So I was very curious. So after the darshan got over, I came out. I asked him, sir, what did you write in the letter? I mean, what did you hurriedly? He said, see, when you came in and you walked in, I followed you. As I was following you, I saw the name of this building. It's written Sai Shruti. So the name struck a chord in my mind. I thought, since this building belongs to Baba and it's written Sai Shruti, I thought, let me take his permission to name my house as Sai Shruti. He had bought a new apartment and he wanted to name the apartment. So he wanted to name it as Sai Shruti. Imagine, and he scribbled a letter. Swami took the letter, blessed him, indirectly blessing his new apartment also. And his life turned complete 180 degrees. The next day, the wallpaper in his computer was Swami. To this day, I don't keep Swami's photo in my wallpaper. And he had Swami's photo on his desk. Everything. And he became I can't even explain. It's like saying 0 to 100 in 3 seconds, 5 seconds. They talk of automobiles. This was the case. So how did this happen? He read a negative article. And then that prompted him to inquire further, and he became. So what we think as something negative as end of the road is the beginning of the road. I understood from this experience. We think that it's the end of the road or the negative, but for somebody else it's the beginning of the road, and they start their life from there. And I was also reminded of Shakespeare when he says in Romeo and Juliet, the bad news travels faster than the good news. When you talk about Satyasai water project, but you talk something negative, it immediately, because we are made up of our own vasanas. So Swami knows how each person should be attracted. So this was one great experience which I learned, and I related this to the Sannidhi. Now the word Sannidhi itself is so beautiful. We don't use the word Samadhi Mandir. We say Sannidhi. We are not going to Samadhi Mandir, we are going to the very living presence of the Lord. And again, I am reminded of one wonderful experience I had with Swami. In one of the instances when Swami was talking to me, Swami asked me, who are you? I didn't know how to answer. Swami put his hand on my shoulder and said, the right answer to this question is, I am I. Answer is, I am I. It didn't make any sense to me at the time. I thought, maybe, is this sentence grammatically wrong? Even I thought in my naivety, when Swami made this statement. But Swami said, I am I is the right answer. But later on, when Swami suffered the fall in 2005, I mean, he showed to the world that he had a fall. And then Swami started repeating in many discourses, Devabhimanam, I mean, Dehabhimanam Taginchu, Atmabhimanam Penchu. That means reduce your body consciousness and increase your the love for your Atmic consciousness. You know, Swami kept repeating after 2005. If you see many discourses, this theme kept playing. It just set my mind into a different zone. And I recollected this statement that Swami had told me almost 20, 25 years back at that point of time, in 2005, 2006. And I started getting into a different way of looking at Swami, Darshan and everything. Then I realized this is the same thing which the Mahavakya says. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, I am Atma Brahma. This is the same thing Adi Shankaracharya says in Nirvana Shatakam. This is the same thing Ramana Maharishi says as Atma Vichara when he says, who am I? This is what he says. This is what the great saints, Sant Kabir, in his Dohes and Hindi, all this composition, he says, where are you searching for me? I am very much within you, the famous song. Where are you searching? The Lord answers. And same thing, Goswami Tulsidas, or even Namdev Maharaj, where Krishna, the Vitala himself, takes into Advaitic concept by using the Shivling towards the end of his life. So, all these things came together. Then I realized, my good Lord, here I was praying to Swami as a picture. Here I was enjoying the physical proximity of Swami in Ooty, in Kodaikanal as a small kid. I was in the physical presence of Swami, powerful physical presence, and learned so many wonderful lessons directly from Swami. Moved on, saw the presence of Swami all across the globe, wherever I went, in any circumstances. I've just narrated a few instances. There are so many instances where I have felt his presence and his answers to most tricky situations. And then, towards the end, when we come, this is what Swami has been pushing us. This is what Swami made us understand when he did Atirutra Mahayagya in 2006. When he said, on the entire Namakam, I am not an expert in Sanskrit, I can't, but the Swami, the entire Namakam, when I understand, it talks about the different aspects of God, which is there in all forms. So this is the cosmic consciousness which Swami has been talking. This is what he has been reiterating in the discourses. I am I. And then the thought came to me that it was time to go within more and more and start searching for the Lord within yourself. And by finding the Lord within you, the Swami within you, you start seeing the Swami everywhere. Where is the question of feeling the absence of Swami? Or where is the question of even thinking, where is Swami, or how do I understand Swami's omnipresence? First, I find that Swami form within myself, and then everything else becomes clear to me. So this, in short, is my journey which I have lived with Swami and understood the way Swami has spoken. And again, to use Swami's word, even in the instance of Draupadi Vastraharan, when she said Madrapuri Nivasi, Dwaraka Nivasi, only when she said Hriday Nivasi, so Krishna came and helped. So the lesson for us also is we need to look at Swami as our Hriday Nivasi at this point of time. I am I. The I which is within us is what Swami everywhere. I would like to end with Swami's one very favorite quote which I always keep very close to my heart. The greatest adventure in life is to seek God. The greatest romance in life is to love God. The greatest achievement in life is to realize God. So let us all together as Sai fraternity seek, love and realize the Swami within us and be a beacon of hope for all those who would like to get into the Sai fold and participate in this universal Sai consciousness. Sai Ram. Thank you.
Sairam's brother, first of all, thank you for sharing such wide experiences and thoughts with us. Definitely, today, I think along with me, all of us would have understood the true meaning of omnipresence of Bhagwan as to how in each aspect of your life, he has been there with you and, driving you. All the messages that you gave, all the incidences, I think it's truly, it is Swami's grace and blessing that each Samarpan session gives us something to learn. So this session, I think all of us have learned more about how Swami is omnipresent and omniscient. It's not that just because now he's physically not present, he's not. Definitely, he's there with us at every step and every aspect of our life. Thank you so much, brother, for sharing your thoughts with us. I think
Thank you.
there are few questions which we have received, so I will just take one or two questions, not taking much of the time. First, I would like to ask you. There's one question which has come up: how to build a relationship with Bhagwan in these trying times where there is so much temptations around the world, be it COVID or any other thing. There are so many temptations around the world. So how do we connect with Bhagwan during these times?
See, actually, if I can answer it this way, personally, I've seen this COVID time, pandemic time, has been a greatest blessing. Without any hesitation, I'm telling you, I mean, I'm not brushing aside whatever has happened across the world and so much. Even I lost very dear family members, my friends, I mean, so many. Leaving those things aside, it has been a wonderful time for everybody to stop, think, get back within themselves due to the lockdown and due to various things and understand for themselves what is the right priorities in life. I'm sure not only our Sai circle, in everywhere, many people have opined the same thing. They have understood for themselves what is priorities in life. Personally speaking, I realized what I was doing, 80 to 90% of it was not worthwhile doing at all. Seriously speaking, I'm not getting into specifics of it. Only the core 10%, which revolved around certain core things, was what was necessary. And in that 10% of what I was doing earlier, my relationship with Swami was a very, very important aspect of it. Because imagine a situation, again, using COVID, I mean, not, please do not take it in a negative way. Assume I am indisposed. I am in a hospital bed or somewhere. What comes to me at that point of time? This thought kept on recurring in my mind in the last 2 years. Is it my money? Is it my relatives? Is it my job? It is my social circle? Nothing. I am all alone there staring at the ceiling, conscious or unconscious. What is there at that moment? It's only Swami. And personally speaking, I had in a different situation in radio, I had mentioned, I had personally gone through this. This happened in a previous occasion when the SARS epidemic was very widespread in 2000, 2001, and China, all the Southeast Asian nations were very badly affected. India was not affected at that time. I was living in Singapore, and I had to go to China very frequently. So in one of the visits when I was there, I started developing all the symptoms of the SARS. And I was in a remote, when I say China, I'm not talking about Beijing or Shanghai. I was in the remote northwestern province of China, up in the mountains in the coal belt, coking coal, highly polluted zone I developed, and I was really scared. I didn't know what's going to happen. I was worried that they'll quarantine me in Beijing itself, or they may not allow me to enter Singapore because Singapore had designated a separate island to keep all these people who come with this kind of ailment. I was missing my son who was only a 1 year, 2 year old at the time, my wife, they were living alone in Singapore. So at that time, when I, that worried mind, when I went to sleep, Swami came in the dream, and he came and asked me deep briefly. I couldn't because I was gasping for breath in my vision also, in the dream also. Swami put his two fingers up my nose like this, and he touched somewhere here, and he said, "Breathe now." I was struggling, I tried. Then Swami turned, he said, "Breathe," in a very formal. So I took whatever energy I can and did. I did like that twice. Swami just touched my head and gave me Padmaskar and went. I just woke up. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was sweating profusely. Completely, my entire body was drenched. Imagine I'm in an AC room in that hotel. I was drenched. I went and took a bath in the Brahmamurta at that time, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was perfectly fine. So this experience had already taught me that when you are facing a calamity or this kind of a crisis situation, nothing comes to your aid. Nothing at all. Nobody can help you there. So we need to understand and educate for ourselves what matters most in life is our link with the Lord in whichever form we worship. That link has to be very, very firm, and it has to be carried with us 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That is absolutely, I think Swami has told this very clearly to us. The only happiness lies in union with God. This is Swami's word. Happiness lies in union with God. That is what we need to follow as Sai devotees.
Thank you so much, brother. There is one interesting question which I can see here. We have heard your experience as narrated by our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir, of a turnaround of an enterprise. Could you tell us how you were able to apply Swami's teaching in such challenging situation and the takeaways from it?
Okay, actually, this happened somewhere in the mid 90s. It was a sick unit which I was assigned to it, and whatever you can think is going wrong was going wrong there. Absolutely no bank balance, and it was totally bankrupt. And the workers were demoralized, staff was demoralized, and so that was a general situation when I walked in. So first I had to motivate the team there. So when I saw, I'm just quickly, I'm not getting into too much of the specific management, I'm just giving few points. I had to motivate the team there. So I had to present them a vision where, as the team, we could take the company ahead. So first, I revamped the production flow and got in certain basic things by taking certain emergency loans and other things. Then got in some new equipment, and then went out of the way to get some new orders and everything. And then the main thing which happened was, I saw that there was one gentleman, a senior person who was retiring. He was 60 plus at the time, and as per the norms of the company, he should be retired at the end of the time. But I realized that this man needed the job. He had a family to support. He had a daughter to be married. I don't remember now. His income was very important to the family. But having that man continuing in the position would have been very difficult for me to effect the turnaround, because you can't expect a 62-year-old man to adapt to the changes which I'm going to inculcate, because I was going to drastically revamp the entire thing. So I came up with a hard thinking after a lot of prayer. Then I thought, let me use the expertise of the man. I just moved him out from the job, kept him like a mentor, got in a youngster into the position who could do my bidding in revamping, because the finance was an important portfolio to set right certain things. But use this man's experience, gave him all the respect to act as a mentor and be a guiding force, since he had worked in the organization for more than 40-45 years. So this totally changed that man's outlook. And he went out of the way. If I was putting in 10 steps, he was doing 12 steps. And seeing such an old man doing so much work, everybody else joined in. So since the brevity of time, I'm not getting into the details. So over a period of 18 months or so, we totally changed. We got new business. We made profits, and dividend, which was not declared for more than 2 decades, were declared. And it was just happiness all around. And the beauty of this experience was, to this day, I do not keep Swami's photo in my computer or on my phone. I don't keep it on my office table. I don't do that, because somehow I believe it is my personal relationship. I don't want to keep Swami. But those who know. But in this unit which I was handling, I never spoke about Swami, never. There is no indication about Swami at all to them, because I was too busy doing all this. After doing all these things, this old man one day, when I was just signing some documents he had brought for my signature to my office where I used to sit elsewhere, he just removed his glasses and he profusely shed tears for 5 minutes. I didn't know what was happening, so I just allowed him. I got him a glass of water. He said, sir, in your position, anybody would have sent me home. You kept me, and not only kept me, gave me the same salary, and gave me enhanced responsibilities, and gave me dignity in my life. Very thankful. I could fulfill all my responsibilities in my life for my daughter and son and everything. And then he told me, now it was my turn to cry. You did this because you are Baba's student. You are Satya Sai Baba's student. I couldn't face him. Tears came in my eyes, I had to turn my chair other side and I had to act as if I'm working on some computer or something for a few seconds by the time I turned back. So it was again a very very fulfilling, and again I'm very thankful to my younger brothers. I was given an opportunity to narrate this in front of Swami in the year 2005 when we had the 20th year anniversary of MBA. I was not at all as a speaker there. Out of the blues, I don't know, the students were handling it. They just said, brother, why don't you speak? So I just got up and narrated this in front of Swami, and Swami also blessed profusely. And the next day, Swami called all of us inside Bhajan hall, and also he spent time with each one of us who had come for the 20th anniversary of MBA. So again, unforgettable experience. I don't know how this message went and reached the president that time, and how he narrated. It's a surprise to me, but this is how it happened. Sorry.
Just a last question, brother. You spoke about cultivating Atma Bhimam. Okay, how do we?
Sorry?
You spoke about cultivating Atma Bhimam.
Atma? Abhimanam.
Yeah. But still we love the form, physical form of Bhagwan. How do we balance both?
Actually, if you really see, when you get into a kind of a contemplative mood with Swami, when you start praying to Swami, whether it's in a bhajan, whether you sit in a meditation, what we call as meditation, as a concentration, we sit for concentration, contemplation, we look at Swami's foot. After a few minutes, you see there is an ethereal silence which builds up in you. And Swami explains this in a very simple way. People go all the way to Tirupati Balaji Darshan in Tirupati. Swami has narrated this, many of you might have heard it in discourse also. They go and stand for 7 hours, 8 hours and go for darshan of Tirupati Balaji. They go and stand in front of Balaji and close their eyes and they pray. Swami said this. What does this signify, Swami said? That itself signifies that the Balaji whom we are trying to pray is not there standing in front of you, but is there very much in you. If you realize that the Balaji was only the idol, after standing for 7 or 8 hours, why are you going and standing there and closing your eyes and praying? Swami has narrated this in the discourse. Many of you might have heard it. So, there is absolutely nothing different. When you say there is a form of Swami, yes, that's the first step. The form is enticing. It attracts us. We take, but Swami says there has to be a manana after that. Swami again explained very beautifully in interview room once to my batchmates, when we were all sitting as a batchmates, to one of my classmates. Swami said, what is meditation? Swami asked. Then that boy couldn't answer. Swami said, you are now sitting here in front of me. You are saying, Swami, you go back to a hostel and you think about it. That is meditation. Swami explained. So, the Swami whom you see outside in the physical form, you love, you really are fascinated. You take that form inside when you are sitting and praying, you close your eyes. That form appears in front of your mind. That form comes in your dream. You internalize that form. So after a point of time, there is a question of, when we are praying to Swami also, even at this stage, when you chant Om, you don't keep your eyes open and say Om. When you chant Loka Samasta Sukhina Bhavan, Samasta Loka Sukhina Bhavan, I don't keep my eyes open and chant. Anything we do, you say Asatoma Sadgamaya, I close my eyes. So it is a very clear concept that the Lord resides within. He is there within. He is to be only thought within. And by seeking Him within and understanding His presence within, we start seeing Him everywhere else. And if I have time, I just want to explain this with one more thought in my mind. I am not judging people, or I am not quoting any scriptures. Over the entire life, the last 45, 46, I am 52 years old now, but 45, 46 of my meaningful life, when I am relating to people with whom I have a wavelength, spiritual wavelength, I'm not talking about corporate, I'm not talking about business, that's different. A spiritual wavelength, when you find a people, wherever they are, in whatever position they are, you might find them in the railway station, bus stop, airports, plane, it may be some distant relative of yours, it could be a classmate of yours, just a wide spectrum of people whom you meet in life. I found there are 3 sets into which this falls. The first set is a Sai fraternity, where we enjoy in talking about Swami. We keep recollecting about Swami, his Leelas and everything. We are very keen. When do we go to Parthi next? Did you go for Shivratri? Did you go for Navratri? Did you go for Swami's birthday? Guru Purnima? So on and so forth. Christmas. So, did you go for Sai Center Bhajan? Did you go for service? So, this is one group with whom we connect, relate. There is another group whom I have met at really Swami's blessing, who have heard about Swami once, who had a fortune of having Swami's darshan once, but that one time was enough for them. I found such people very remote areas in south, north, some areas like in Haridwar, Rishikesh, somewhere. I'm not talking about sadhu mahatmas, simple people, common people. Just one darshan, one glimpse of Swami, their life was fulfilled, they are satisfied, and they had their communion with Swami. The third group was all the more interesting. These are people who were not Sai devotees at all, maybe not followers of Sanatana Dharma also. They were Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Jain. I mean, I can go on. Now, these people, they are neither come to Swami, nor have they heard of Swami, or they are not in the, because they are following their path, they are saying everything. So, in discussion with them, seeing the spiritual life, I am talking only about people with whom I have the wavelength, the spiritual life. When I used to bring up the topic of Swami, Sat Sai Baba, there will invariably be a silence, not in a negative way, in a very, very positive way. They'll just get into a contemplative mood for the few seconds, and then they'll just smile and they'll continue. I have seen this happening with some Buddhists, and specifically Methodists, a practicing born-again Christian in US, whom I had a good fortune of knowing in my life. He's a born-again Christian. He's there to take everybody towards Christ. He's a Methodist. But when I uttered this name, I still remember the ethereal silence in a very positive way. So it made me realize that Swami works in totally different dimensions. We don't understand. We think that what we see and what is visible to our five senses is what the realm at which Swami works. Swami works, and when you say Vasudeva Kudumbakam, Swami means it. And Swami correcting Professor Kasturi Garu when he said, Prapanchame na illu. When he said, the world is Swami's mansion, Swami said, not world, the entire cosmos is my mansion. When he corrected Professor Kasturi Garu, which is very famously quoted in Loving God, Professor Kasturi Garu's autobiography, or even in Satyam Chand Sundaram. So that is the dimension at which Swami works. That is how Swami relates to the world. You pray to him, you don't pray to him. You take his name, you don't take his name. You take his name in any other form. That's what Swami says. You call me by any name. You relate to me by any name. I am there to answer you. So this is what I have understood and learned from Swami's words and Swami's.
Brother, thank you once again for spending the time with us and sharing all your thoughts with us. We would like to end this session with Samasta Loka and Om Shanti. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai.